Shalom, shalom. First and foremost, I'd like to give all praises, glory, and honor to Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai, Ba'ashem Rakakadash. Double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone for teaching us His truth. Salutations to the sincere Akim and Aqua to me. Listen, may the blessing of election be upon your house. My name is Brother Raquai. I'm back in here with another quick and Yahweh Rataza is always an edifying lesson. And for today's lesson, I'm going to be going through Roosevelt and the understanding of the Bible. So for those who may not know, this Roosevelt I have on my screen here, he was, I'm just going to read a quick snippet of what he was and who he was actually. So Theodore Roosevelt Jr., often referred as Teddy, was an American politician, statesman, soldier, conversationist, naturalist, historian, and writer who served as the 26th President of the United States from 1901 to 1909. He previously served as the 25th Vice President under President William McKinley from March to September 1901 and as the 33rd Governor of New York from 1899 to 1900. Assuming his presidency after McKinley's assassination, Roosevelt emerged as a leader of the Republican Party and became a driving force for antitrust and progressive policies, right? So, he was a president at the time, right? So he was somebody like in the upper echelon of society. Like if you think about ancient Roman Empire, you had the patricians and you had the plebeians, and the plebeians, not the plebeians, Slakia, the patricians were kind of like the upper echelon in society. They were like the people who had, status, wealth, and so on and so forth, right? So, these modern day patricians are like your politicians, your Nancy Pelosi's, your Jeff Bezos, your Joe Bidens, and, all these different figureheads, right? All these different elites, right? So, but there was a quote that came across earlier today because I was just listening to Apostle Gabar's video and, it's going into this quote. And I wanted to just read it. You could just search it up, actually. I'm just using my other phone to, do my research. So the quote says this: "A thorough knowledge of the Bible is worth more than a college education," right? So this was something that kind of stuck to me and kind of resonated with me, mostly because, personally for me, and I guess there are other brothers as well who can also attest to this and actually speak on this as well, that, because I personally went to college and university and, and now being in the truth and actually waking up to this understanding and being the truth of the Bible and knowing who the Lord is through His Son, Yahweh Ba'ashem Shai, we learned that, it's very, very vast. It's a complete contrast to what you're actually taught, A, in school, specifically for this lesson, and B, also in the church, right? So that's what I wanted to kind of touch on. There's a couple of precepts, nothing too long, nothing too, crazy, but hopefully it's always edifying. So the first precept I wanted to go into was one of my favorites. I want to get Isaiah. Let's bear with me one second. Okay, this is Isaiah chapter 55, verse 1. And it reads, "Ho, everyone that thirsteth, come ye to the waters, and he that hath no money, come ye buy and eat, yea, come, buy wine and milk without money, without price." Verse 2, "Wherefore do ye spend money for that which is not bread, and labor for that which satisfieth not? Hearken unto me, hearken diligently unto me," Salaki, excuse me, "and eat ye which is good, and let your soul delight yourself in fatness," right? So, one of the reasons I wanted to bring this out, because, when we come into this understanding, this wisdom and knowledge and understanding that, Yahweh Ba'ashem Shai has like opened up our minds to and supped with us, it's not something we paid for, right? right? Well, technically speaking, um, yes, we didn't pay for it with money, but there's a scripture in the Corinthians that talks about we were bought with a price, right? That just quickly came into my mind. But essentially, the point is we didn't pay actual, dollars, for this wisdom and knowledge, right? And we're not supposed to, right? The scriptures talks about in Matthew that freely ye have received, you freely give, to roughly paraphrase, right? And there's the complete contrast too in the world, because in the world, we're taught, a lot of us, especially like, me being from the islands, like we pride ourselves in education, and sports. Those two main things are like the two things you have to do to kind of get yourself out of the your living situation, right? Because we don't have anything. Our people doesn't have anything. We're destroyed for lack of knowledge, right? So I want to read verse 2 again. Wherefore do ye spend money for that which satisfieth, which is not bread, Salakia, and your labor for that which satisfieth not? Hearken diligently unto me, and eat ye which is good, and let your soul delight itself in fatness, right? So this is a bread that doesn't get stale. This is a water that doesn't stop what's the word I'm looking for? It doesn't stop flowing, right? It's everlasting, right? It's always renewing, rejuvenating, so on and so forth, right? And this is something that our people don't understand, because we go to these schools and these institutions, and we're taught the ways of essentially Satan, because it's completely contrary to the Most High, because and one of those things that we're often taught is this idea and concept of free will, right? And the scriptures actually discusses this and actually shows that there is no such thing as free will, right? So we pay physical money for these institutions, and we realize, okay, this is, this, it doesn't satisfy our people, because our people are still looking for something. They're still looking for some kind of hole to be filled, right? And the only one who can actually do that, is the Most High through His Son Yahweh Shai, right? That can actually bind us up, right? Yahweh Shai said, I have laid out a hole, need not a physician. So if somebody is, completely, whole, they think they have everything, like, why would you need to go see a physician for? You only go there if you're sick. You understand what I'm saying? Like, not to ramble, but, hopefully this makes the point. Verse 3, and it says, incline your ear unto me, and hear, and let and your soul shall live, and I will make an everlasting covenant with you, even the sure mercies of David, right? And that's something that we want, especially during these times, right? Because the mercies of David is so precious, especially in these times and what has happened in the past 2-3 years. Because I always hear stories of people still, essentially they're being deleted. They're just falling down, and they're just becoming unalive. Because of the jump shot. The taco sauce, right? If you catch what I'm saying, right? And the media doesn't talk about this, and because we've moved the Most High to wrath, and the Lord put us away. We all need mercy, especially in these times, right? So let's jump to the next precept I have. Okay, this is 1 Corinthians chapter 2. I'm going to start at verse 10 and read down, so just bear with me. And it says, but the Most High Yahweh hath revealed them unto us by His Spirit, for the Spirit searcheth all things, yea, the deep things of the Most High Yahweh. For what man knoweth the things of a man, save the spirit of a man which is in him? Even so, the things of the Most High Yahweh knoweth no man, but the Spirit of the Most High Yahweh. Now we have received not the spirit of the world, aka, for example, your free will, your feminism, your your prestigious, I guess, college education, so-called prestigious. We don't have that spirit of the world, right? Moving on, it says, Now we have the spirit. Now we have received not the spirit of the world, but the spirit which is of the Most High Yahweh, that we might know the things that are freely given to us of Yahweh, for which we also speak not in the words of man's wisdom teacheth, but which the Holy Spirit teacheth, comparing spiritual things with spiritual. Right? The especially in these institutions of higher learning, you don't actually learn a history. When they teach history in a lot of these institutions, for example, they teach history just going back to as far back as the Greeks. You might maybe here and there, depending on programs, you might learn about the Roman Empire. But you don't actually learn about spiritual things too, because people would actually understand, that we live in a very revised version of Rome today, a Rome 2.0. Like in the old ancient Roman Empire, right? Because in this Salakia, in this time, for example, when it says with the precept here, it says comparing spiritual things with spiritual. One of those spiritual things, as an example, is actually understanding that we're living in a new Roman Empire. And this new Roman Empire, Babylon the Great, and countries that follow after it, right, is a revised version of the ancient Roman Empire, and continues those same customs. I'll give you one example. When a president is quote unquote elected into office, the word they use is inauguration. Now, inauguration goes back to the practice of augury, which essentially it's like witchcraft on the left hand side, where an augur or a soothsayer would observe the behavior of birds, right? And that is a practice that was held and be present, when a so-called, I guess, a new leader in Rome would, come into office, essentially, right? And when a new person comes into office, that's the word they use, and that's the word they still use today. When a president, like for example, when Joe Biden, came into, when they, so-called won the election, they used the word, okay, the president-elect has to be inaugurated, right? That's what inauguration goes back to, right? So, and that's just one of the many different customs that, Babylon the Great, can be likened unto a spiritual Rome, right? And that's a spiritual thing to actually understand, because they're borrowing a lot of the same customs, practices, traditions from the ancient Roman Empire, right? So, verse, let's see, where was I? Verse 13, and it reads, which things which we speak not in the words of man's wisdom teacheth. Oh, I read that. I'll just read it again. Which man's wisdom teacheth, but which the Holy Spirit teacheth, comparing spiritual things with spiritual. But the natural man receiveth not the things of the Spirit of the Most High, for they are foolishness unto him. Neither can he know them, because they are spiritually discerned, right? So, it takes a spiritual eye or a level of deeper understanding to actually know, there are spiritual things that actually occur, in the world today, and actually have that understanding, right? It's kind of like a third eye that they talk about in the world, you have a third eye, you're able to see things and discern things, right? I think that was one of the things that, Solomon had prayed for in First Kings, the 3rd chapter, right? To be able to discern and have and provide instruction and judge the people, right? Because he said I'm not but a child, right? And that's another thing too. Not to go too off topic, that's one of the things that they also constantly in these schools and these institutions, these college education, it perpetuates the idea of pride and valuing, your own opinion, right? So and that is something that the Most High hates. The Most High hates somebody who's very, very prideful. So, so let me just go to, because I made a point earlier about like one of the things that they teach in these schools. like colleges, education, and so on and so forth, right? And a lot of what they teach is very satanic, right? Gender theory and showing that there's multiple genders and so on and so forth, and that's not true. This is Sirach 33. I want to start at verse 13, and it reads, "As the clay in the potter's hand to fashion it at his pleasure, so man is in the hand of him that made him to render to them as liketh him best," right? So it's the Most High Yahweh Bashim Yahushai that controls, both sides. I form the light and I create darkness. I form peace and create evil. I, the Lord Yahweh Bashim Yahushai, do all these things, right? And that is a mystery that is completely not known to the people, in the world, especially our people, because we are like we as in Israelites, we have a higher dense population in a lot of these schools, right? Especially the Israelite women, right? Because they actually dominate, over the Israelite man in a lot of these post-secondary schools, right? And they're being filled up with this satanic nonsense, right? So let me just get one more. I don't want to make this too long, but Yahweh Radha says always, I pray and hope that these videos are edifying. Let's get. Okay, this is 1 Kings chapter 2, verse 1, and it reads, "Now the days of David drew nigh that he should die, and he charged Solomon his son, saying, I go the way of all the earth, be thou strong, therefore show thyself a man." And I thought that was very interesting too, because in a lot of these schools, it forces a lot of young men to be more feminine. The environment itself, it forces a lot of young men to be feminine, right? To actually, always open up about your emotions and safe spaces and protest and, paint your fingernails and, curl your eyebrows and, learn about all these different genders and all this madness, right? And it's this the precept in Ecclesiastes, it says, fear the Most High and keep his commandments, right? That is the whole duty of man, right? Verse 3, and it reads, "Keep charge of the Lord Yahweh thy power, to walk in his ways, to keep his statutes, and his commandments, and his judgments, and his testimonies that is written in the law of Moses, that thou mayest prosper in all that thou doest, and whithersoever thou turnest thyself." So I thought that was very interesting, because the world, the knowledge of these, especially in a lot of these colleges and education, it doesn't teach you about the commandments of the Most High, because the commandments of the Most High actually teach you how to there's order to things. There's order to maintain your life, your family, yourself, the land, the ocean, things of that nature, right? It shows you how to keep, maintenance over the earth, right? It doesn't teach you, the colleges and education, they don't teach you these things, right? I'm not knocking specifically, like, if brothers have like a trade and trades knowledge, because, there's always money in these things, but I'm showing and trying to expose the information that is normally taught in a lot of these universities and schools. It's essentially, it's satanic, right? So, like, personal opinion wise, I personally think that, if a man has a trade, he would always have work, right? So in those cases, having trades knowledge, carpentry, or if you're a gardener, I used to make a lot of money in gardening, trimming trees, and there's a lot of parables about a lot of these different trees and so on and so forth, all throughout the scriptures, right? So, but that's just my personal opinion. But the point is, a lot of the knowledge that's pushed forth by Esau in these schools, and a lot of the funding that they get from these schools, It can be from, the Bill or Melinda Gates Foundation, or, from the Rockefellers or these elites, right, that perpetuate and push this narrative, especially feminism. That's a very common thing in a lot of these schools, which is nonsense, right? But I think I'll just end it off there, to be honest with you. Hopefully, you brothers and few sisters got something out of this. Yep, and I just like to give all praises, glory, and honor to Yahweh Bashem Yahushai, Bashem Makakadash. Double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone for teaching us his truth. Till next time, I say Shalom.